Hello and welcome to the show. For today's challenge, we are on Forza 6, having a go at some more Lucky Dip racing. Although the rules for this session were a little bit different. Everyone would be drawn one car from random in C-Class. However, our vehicles would have to do 3 builds with, one for C-Class, one for B-Class, and one for A-Class. So you could be drawn a car that gives you very little in the way of PI to work with in C-Class, but could be quite faster in higher tiers. You could be drawn some weird and wonderful stuff. I happened to be drawn the John Cooper Works GP Mini, a choice that I was relatively happy with. I do quite like, of all the front-wheel drive cars, I really do quite like the Cooper Works Mini. Now, there were no rules on as far as upgrades go, so you could change drivelines and change engines in your car, etc. But yeah, it'd be all about who could get the most out of their vehicles in different classes and what cars would be quick in what class. Our first race, and we would head to the Hockenheim short circuit. As you might imagine, the only front-wheel drive in the field, that was me, would struggle a little bit off the line. There was a Volkswagen Scirocco, but that was, I think, rear-wheel drive swapped. So yeah, I was flying the flag very much for all the front-wheel drives. Got a little bit mugged off of the start line. Everything got very crazy at turn 1, and it's an awful lot of cars trying to fit into a very, very small piece of tarmac through turn 2. The Lancia 037 coming off the worst of the lot. Me still fighting my way with a Charger. Yeah, the Charger a little bit quicker than the Mini in terms of straight line speed. However, the Mini that bit better around the corners. I tried to go the long way around, realised that's not going to work. Cut back to the inside. The Charger can't get his car turned, does brush the wall, and that would move my Mini up a position. The field did kind of get a little bit split in two, with a few vehicles getting involved in early incidents that would drop them down the field. This was sort of the secondary battle going on around turn 1. Volvo understeering out wide. The SVT Cobra would spot an opportunity, have a big dive up the inside, park the purple Mustang on the apex, give the Volvo absolutely nowhere to go. The Escort ran a little bit wide through turn 1, but had plenty of acceleration to fend off of that Mustang. Like the Volvo, for example, don't have a huge amount of PI to play around with in C-Class. Not a huge amount you can do with the car. The Volvo also notoriously understeering. And of course, there would be those that would be less lucky. A BMW X5 is a prime example. Also, the Audi S3, a very little PI at all to play with in C-Class, and just generally not a massively fast car. They are very, very difficult vehicles to work with, and the Lancia, after a poor start, was absolutely monstering his way up through the field. The 037, when we saw this car got drawn, you knew you were going to be in trouble. It is an incredibly fast car in just about every single class, and even a bad start here at Hockenheim wasn't slowing it down too much, although it couldn't quite get the move done on the BMW at the final turn. The X5 had a decent turn of speed, but not so much around the corners. It could run in a straight line quite nicely with all of the power, but yeah, could not get around the corners as well as an 037. Does have a little bit of a try up the inside of turn 2, but yeah, never really likely to make that particular move work, while an S2000 was busy making a pass on the poor Audi. The Charger was another one that was struggling quite considerably in this field, with the SVT Cobra keen to make up some positions. The Dodge going as defensive as he can into the hairpin. That is no problem for the Mustang. The Mustang having more than enough grip to run all the way around the outside. That's a long way to go around that hairpin. That is a long, long way to go. You just see the amount of grip the Ford has got here, the advantage the Ford has to be able to take that speed. The Honda S2000, unfortunately, would run wide, clip a curb, and go spinning across onto the grass. The Hockenheim curbs are dangerous. The Hockenheim curbs are very, very dangerous. While the SVT Cobra busy chasing down the Audi, and it wouldn't be long before the Audi would lose another spot, although not quite yet. Back towards the front, and the Lancia had caught up towards, well, this was to get into the top 6. Lancia up the inside of the Scirocco. The Scirocco was actually doing very, very well, but wouldn't stand a chance against the Lancia. The Aston Martin had all sorts of issues on a curb. I've never seen a car bounce around in as peculiar manner as that one. So I'd say these curves are being really vicious. It seemed extra especially vicious in this race. The Scirocco having a similar issue on the final corner. Not front wheel drive, sorry. The Scirocco isn't front wheel drive, but you can see how the rear wheel drive cars, if they get spun a little bit more around that, could have problems at that final curve. My Mini stood no chance against the might of the 037. It would move itself up into third, while the leaders were now starting to argue. The Impreza had run away with the lead, but was getting caught by an M3, and as we came towards the latter stages of the race, the BMW keen to try and find a way past, but they're fighting in just a couple of corners. Had brought the Lancia right up into contention. The Subaru ran a wheel out onto the sand on the exit of the final corner. Just, that you lose that momentum coming onto the start-finish straight. BMW would go soaring past. Lancia has a nibble up the inside, gets a lot of airtime across the curb, at the inside curb at turn 1. I follow the Lancia and also fire my Mini up into the air. It's not particularly good for any vehicle, and the Lancia getting away with it better than most. And now the Subaru dropped a couple of places, would find himself under fire from the Mini. It took a couple of laps to get the Mini going, but it was actually flying towards the end of this race, but not as fast as the Lancia. BMW trying his best to hold on to the lead, but the 037 can just carry so much more corner speed, and around a track like this, while there is a couple of straights for the more powerful cars to accelerate around, there's a lot of corners, and the Lancia is just too fast. Around the outside of the hairpin couldn't quite make it stick, but around the outside of the final two corners, that would work for the Lancia. Likewise, I'd go around the outside of the Subaru to move myself up into third place. Yeah, none of us had an answer for the 037. Apart from typical Lancia electronics. Yes, a controller disconnected as we came onto the very final lap, down towards turn 1, and a controller disconnection for the Lancia would see it go straight on into the wall at the first corner. Very, very unfortunate. The BMW would claim the lead. The Scirocco was actually closing up towards the back of me towards the end of the race. Both of us ended up missing the bloody first corner at this particular time. The Lancia would get the controller back connected and rejoin down in fifth, which is not bad considering the issues. However, yeah, the BMW would be slightly gifted the win. Yeah, the Lancia far quicker than the rest of us, although the BMW had done well to make his way up through the field and was that little bit clear of me and the fighting Scirocco. I'd managed to hold the Volkswagen off on the final lap to see the Cooperworks Mini into second. The Impreza would claim fourth ahead of the Lancia in fifth. The SVT Cobra would work his way up into sixth. Not bad for him from such a poor start as well. Further back, and the two heavyweights of the field, two of the heavyweights of the field, the X5 was a little bit further up the road, in fact, would have the closest finish of them all. The Audi trying frantically to find a way past the Charger. Couldn't quite make it stick in the second to last corner. Around the final turn, the Dodge gets a lot of sliding going on. The Audi tries his best. He gets it to the inside, but with the drag race to the line, couldn't quite do it. The Dodge claiming the position, but it was quite a way down the, I think it was about 12th and 13th place between those two. Up into B class, and we would head to the Nürburgring circuit. Again, the only car flying the flag for front-wheel drive. I was using a pre-built trim. I think I used a Cooperworks Mini in a versus the community. Seemed to remember it being a really good car. So I was using that out here with 4 wide on the exit of turn 1. A Golf managing to make his way up to the front of the pack, although everyone's still squabbling for positions. Delta S4 is to the inside of the Aston Martin, but notorious Delta suspension gets the better of him, just slightly losing the back end. The S4 is not a particular, while it can be a very fast car, it's a particularly difficult one to have been drawn. The suspension on that notoriously difficult to work with. The X5 was, well, just about holding its own in this early part of the race. While the Volkswagen was busy escaping up the road, we were all busy having an argument further back. My Mini going around the outside of the BMW. The Volvo managing to get away with all of that. The Scirocco follow me. Once more, I found myself fighting with the Scirocco down into the hairpin. You can see where the Mini is excelling. The brakes on this car, absolutely incredible. And while, yes, it is the only front-wheel drive car in the field, was still able to get its power down out of these corners relatively well, out-dragging the Volvo out of the hairpin, and I can carry a lot more speed on my way up through the S's. The Scirocco still there, keen to try and find a way past. BMW was being harried by vehicles behind. At the front of the field, and it was the Golf leading the way. However, he was being caught. The Lancia Delta was on a mission trying to get to the front of the pack, and yeah, was catching quickly. The Volkswagen just not able to carry the quarter speed. We have seen a few times Delta S4s can go very, very quick. They're very unpredictable. They're very difficult to work with. But if you get one right, they can be very, very fast cars. And this Delta was proving to be just that. That's a scary place to go too wide. The Volkswagen a little bit on the grass and somehow does manage to all get away with that as we come under brakes into that chicane. You can see the amount of the Delta, even with what I assumed is a much better tune than standard Delta. You can see how much it moves about on the suspension. That's why they're such a pain to be working with. I was stuck in a very, very large battle, trying to make my way up through the order. The amount of time lost in traffic in these races is, quite significant. The Subaru Impreza had seen what I'd done to the Volvo, goes very defensive into the hairpin. No bother. For the Mini, I'm just going to go all the way around the outside of you. Again, finding myself stuck on the outside of an all-wheel drive car, still managing to keep up with it in acceleration out the other side. The Mini weighs just absolutely nothing. I only had about 230 horsepower in the Cooper Works GP here. However, it weighs very, very little and was carrying great quarter speed. The downside, though, of such little power is when we do get on the longer straights, it might suffer a little bit. The Impreza spots an opportunity, tries to go for the inside. I get a little bit of a nudge, but booted and front-wheel drive car will sort itself out. And thankfully for me, the Volvo is now getting involved. The Scirocco is getting involved. And as them three are fighting each other, that just gives me that little bit of comfort zone. I can now escape away down the straight where my car is not quite as good as they all managed somehow to sort themselves out, and yeah, could keep myself out of bother. Back towards the front of the race, and the Golf was struggling a little bit, gradually losing positions. The Escort would go past, would move the Golf down into a third. The SVT Cobra would then have a big dive up the inside into turn one, not quite fully making that pass stick, although has got the acceleration on the Volkswagen, does get to the inside of the next corner. The Volkswagen still trying its very, very best to cling on, and the Cobra can't quite get the pass complete. Behind them, though, there is the menacing figure of a Lancia 037. In the end, the Golf is still trying its best to cling on to that place. A cutback from the SVT Cobra and better straight line speed would see the Ford pass. The Golf is on the inside line, on the ideal line really, through the first part, but not able to make a repass stick. Now the Lancia is having a sniff up the inside. Not quite space for an 037 down there. Worth a look, but it couldn't quite make it work. And now as we head down towards the hairpin, the Cobra able to break clear, and the Volkswagen just not able to carry that quarter speed to really fight with that acceleration of the Mustang. Now these two would be locked in battle for most of the race. The Volvo S60, Subaru Impreza continuing arguing for position. Behind them, the cars that were also involved in this fight would change as the race went on. A few vehicles making mistakes and dropping back. Me and the BMW M3 able to escape the clutches of this large battle, as yeah, they were certainly slowing each other down by being too wide everywhere. Quite impressive, in fact, this battle. So for the first few quarters, they're going too wide. Still, they run side by side down this back straight. Incredibly evenly matched cars in terms of straight line speed. The Volvo's the outside for one quarter, but then will be on the inside for the next. Rather than normally when you have kind of side-by-side battles, you end up crisscrossing each sort of quarter, and yeah, this one they literally just stayed in almost our identical positions for the first half a lap. Now the Impreza's trying to get to the inside for the hairpin. The Volvo can't quite get across and cover in time, but he does make sure that he forces the Impreza to take as narrow a line as possible, and when you are forced to take such a narrow line, very, very difficult to carry as much corner speed. So again, they end up out of the turn, exactly side by side. The Impreza having to have a lift, though, as they run through the chicane, and in that half a lap, well, two more cars are coming to join in the fun, as the Scirocco and Evo that have been running in clean air will very, very quickly catch up to this squabbling pair. The Scirocco having a look around the outside, not quite able, though, to make it work at that corner. In the background, the X5 and a Dodge Charger were having a bit of a scrap, so there was certainly plenty going on throughout the field. at the front though, and it was a Lancia yet again that was leading the way. This time though, the Delta S4 would hold on to his lead. Towards the end of the race was gradually being caught by the Escort. However, the Ford would run out of laps to really do very much about the Delta. So yeah, we would have a Lancia claiming victory. It wouldn't be two Lancias on the podium. However, the SVT Cobra would hold off the 037 just about to remain in third place, the 037 in fourth. It was, yeah, quite an eventful race, and it wasn't quite finished yet. Having broke free of the Volvo Impreza battle, I had chased down the Aston Martin V8 Vantage that had been running in clean air for most of the race. The Mini was quicker. However, I had one lap to try and find a way past the Aston Martin, and that was proving a little bit on the difficult side. The straight line speed of the Vantage was just too much for me to overhaul. I could fly through the corners, and with a big slide from the Aston, I got a great run up towards the final turn. The Vantage, though, would go very, very defensive, and this fight was helping bring the M3 very quickly up towards the back of us. I do once more. I keep my car all the way around the outside of another vehicle, and the lightweight Mini does have some good acceleration, but it isn't enough to out-drag the Vantage. So yeah, couldn't quite beat the Aston Martin. The Volkswagen Golf was in 5th. That was the fight for 6th and 7th, with the M3 coming home in 8th. Our final race, we would move up into A-Class, and as you might have guessed by the very quick start, my Mini was no longer front-wheel drive. I'd gone for a Turbo Rally all-wheel drive Mini because I'm a little bit crazy. As we manically fire our way into turn 1, unfortunately 4 cars into a small bit of road didn't work, and that ended up with a Golf pointing backwards in the sand. I understeered a bit wide on my own and then got caught up and bunched all the way down to the back of the field. So not a great start for the all-wheel drive Mini, neither was it for the BMW, that he too found himself stuck on the outside of far too many cars wide. Did a little bit of rally crossing. At this stage, the Escort had got the best start of the bunch, running away at the front. S2000, that had a miserable session, was up in 2nd place. I was once more in the thick of the action, with a lot of cars to try and get past, and a lot of vehicles far bigger than my poor Mini. I did get a move done on the Dodge Charger. I tried to get a move on the Scirocco as well. However, the Charger, faster than me in a straight line. In fact, almost everything faster than me in a straight line down here. The brakes on the Mini is where it does make up the time, but there's just too many cars in front of you to really go for a proper big dive into that corner, and of course corner speed as well. Another place the Mini is excelling. It's not slow, don't get me wrong. When you have a Turbo Rally engine and all-wheel drive, it's certainly not a slow car, but there's a lot of very, very powerful vehicles in this field. I'm trying to find any which way I can to get past this Charger, but none of them were quite working. It's just a blockade of cars in front of me. I end up stuck on the outside. That gives an Aston Martin an opportunity to try and draw alongside another car. Basically, it's the Scirocco and the Aston Martin I spent most of my time racing against in these events. I do, though, keep my nerve against the Aston Martin, and with good drive out of the corner would find myself up alongside the Charger towards the top of the hill. It's side by side. We make it stick through the corner. Unfortunately, up ahead, Delta S4 would lose the back end on the dirt. We all have to check up to try and avoid it, and I'd find myself back at the end of this group. Yeah, it was exciting, and there was an awful lot of position changes going on. The Scirocco doing a bit of rally cross, me doing a bit of a jump down the corkscrew. A little bit cheeky, but we then find ourselves 3 wide through the next that's not a place you want to be going 3 wide, I can tell you that. Scirocco does well, backs out of it, will fall back into line. I'm still fighting with the Vantage. The Charger's looking for a way past the BMW. I've got so much speed in the Mini that I just can't exploit in this group. I'm stuck on the outside, wanting to try and find a way past. BMWs eventually run out of grip and takes a trip across the sand. I get a good run out of the final turn, but it's not enough to overcome the sheer power of the Aston Martin, and this would continue to be by far the most exciting of groups, as we have 3 cars go for a little bit. We were all just following each other, ending up out wide, and it would be the Charger that would be the bottleneck on this group. I was trying my very best, but was having a lot of difficulty finding a way past the Dodge. The M3 had joined up in this group. He was also very, very quick around this circuit. I knew I had to get past the Charger relatively soon, and sure enough, a big dive into the first turn would see the Mini get past. Just the brakes on the Cooper Works Mini, absolutely incredible. It was from a long way back as well. Just the sheer stopping power. And now the Charger's in trouble. He's ended up out of position for turn 1. He's had to try and defend through the next corner, runs wide on the exit. That would give the BMW an opportunity to exploit a cutback, and he does very, very well with the M3 to get past. It's just the floodgates have opened, and the BMW's past. The Scirocco is now there menacingly looking for a way past as well. Further up the road in a slightly less cluttered group, this was the fight for third place. The Impreza leading the way. The Volvo trying his best to fend off an SVT Cobra, but the Mustang would get the place. That's a very, very good overtake. It's an incredibly tough corner to go too wide through and get a pass as cleanly done as that one there. So well done to the Mustang for making that stick. However, the Ford runs a little bit too deep into the corkscrew. That makes him a little slow at the bottom of the corner. The Volvo is now right back in contention as the Ford catches a bit of understeer. Some more sand is kicked up, and the Volvo's turn to go for the spectacular. The Ford on such a tight line can't carry any speed through the turn. Is the Volvo around the outside. Another incredibly good pass. That's not very often you go around the outside of that corner and make a pass stick, but the Volvo does make that work. However, the Ford, slightly quicker of the two cars, is not keen on waiting any longer to find its way past and stay ahead of the Volvo. Will outdrag the S60 as they go side by side across the crest. Another quite uncomfortable moment when you're going as fast as these vehicles are over there. Yeah, another great pass. 3 great passes from these two cars in, well, pretty much half a lap. The big angry group was still a big angry group. Me and the M3 had run clear of it, tangled with each other, and then got dropped right back into the middle of it. The X5, keeping his nose clean, was actually doing quite well, and it was this time the BMW that was blocking all of us. The Aston Martin would make a move, finally stick on the BMW up the inside into the final corner, as would my Mini, making the most of that all-wheel drive launch out of the turn. Couldn't quite do anything about that Aston Martin, though. I knew I had to defend from the big BMW, and that's a terrifying sight, by the way. In the rear view mirror, once again, the incredible brakes of the Mini. I would fire it up the inside. Another quite a long way back. A little bit more pushing my luck than I had against the Charger, but some oversteer on the exit would allow the Aston Martin back into the game. And the more we fought, the X5 was trying to get 3 wide. The X5 was trying to do a cutback on a Mini. Not very often you say that. It almost worked as well. Didn't have the acceleration, though, to fight with the crazy turbo rally car. I would get myself to the inside of the Aston Martin. Aston Martin happy to cut back and still continue to fight the M3, getting back involved. The Golf is still there, trying to look for a way past everyone. It was manic. It was a huge amount of fun. It was absolutely bonkers, though, in the mid-pack. At the front, and the Escort had led for a large portion of the race, and these two had run away from the rest of the field. You saw the fight that was going on for third, and then you saw the huge group that was going on in the mid-pack. That certainly helped them, but yeah, these two cars were faster than the rest of it. Not much that we could do about them, but not much the Escort could do about the Lancia. The Lancia had lap after lap been closing the gap by quite sizable margins to the Ford, and while the Ford had the straight line speed on the Lancia, it could out-accelerate the 037 out of just about every single corner. It had no answer for it when it came to actual corner speed. The 037 trying to get to the inside on the run up towards the corkscrew. It can't out-drag the Escort, but it doesn't need to. It'll out-brake it, and it'll carry so much more speed through these turns. There is, very little the Escort could do. And you also saw the Escort, not the easiest of cars to drive, with a fair few big wiggles from the vehicle, and just in a couple of turns you can see the gap that the 037 can pull. We know how fast. I've got an A-Class 037. I know how stupidly fast these things can be. And yeah, there was not very much the rest of us could do. Back to the mid-pack, we had spread out a little bit more by the time it was getting towards the end of the race. The Golf had found itself ahead of me, which I wasn't having any of. As soon as I got my opportunity, straight to the inside with the Cooper Works Mini. And I have to say, I was very, very impressed with this car. A few people thought I was utterly bonkers for going with a turbo rally all-wheel drive converted car. Normally all-wheel drive conversions of front-wheel drive cars go very, very twitchy, and indeed the Mini was a little bit oversteery in places, but it actually really did hold its own. Had I not been stuck in battles, I think we could have got maybe even onto the podium. It was a quick car. At the front, though, it was never really in question. The Lancia just so much faster than the rest of us. I think it was well over a second a lap faster than the next fastest car, which was the Escort that would come home in second place. The SVT Cobra making its way up into third. So, for an overall table, unsurprisingly, the victor would be the Lancia 037. It honestly should have had an even bigger margin of victory. Had the controller not turned off during race 1, it would have been another 20 points higher up the table. So, yeah, by far the best car out of this lot. Perhaps quite unsurprisingly. The rest of the table, though, very, very interesting. It would be the Escort that would claim second places, with a second at Nürburgring in B class and a second at Laguna in A class. Despite a poor Hockenheim race, the Escort would get second overall. The SVT Cobra would come home in third with a couple of third position finishes and a decent finish at Hockenheim. Ford's doing very, very well in this. My Mini would come in fourth place. I was quite proud of the Mini flying the flag for the front wheel drive cars here. It did very, very well in these races. Even the crazy turbo rally car engine was pretty damn good. The M3 got quite unlucky, in all honesty. Got bumped out of races or made mistakes and dropped back. Again, another very, very quick car in pretty much all of the categories. The Impreza did struggle a little bit at times, as did the S60 in a couple of classes. The Vantage, again, fast in places, but yeah, couldn't quite hold it on overall. The Delta S4, another car, could well have won had it not had damage at Hockenheim and disconnection after a couple of spins at Laguna. Put the car, still considering that is in ninth place, is equal to the Scirocco. Scirocco very, very quick in C class, not so good in the higher classes. And further down we find the Volkswagen Golf. Again, another car that just wasn't quite have the speed over the different classes. The S2000 got unlucky with incidents. The X5 didn't come last. Amazingly, the X5 didn't come last. It beat the Charger, the Evo 8, and the Audi S3. Those bottom three all really did struggle getting the cars working in the various different classes. The S3 in particular, really not a particularly good car for any of the classes. To be fair, yeah, the Audi did very much struggle here. However, that is going to be it for this video. It's actually a lot of fun to do. I'd normally say with Lucky Dip Racing you get interesting cars you haven't driven before. Personally, for me, well, I was running a Mini that I absolutely love, but it was an interesting challenge having to take these cars and try and make them work in all of the different classes. Yeah, the overall victor, perhaps not too surprising, in the Lancia. I was very, very pleased to see just how well the Mini did in this. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun to go racing. Plenty of exciting action with these cars as ever. However, that is going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.